Get your face in the dirt now. The officer's boot pressed against the man's neck, crushing his airway while the diner watched in frozen silence. The officer thought he was taking down a low-level hustler, a quick arrest to boost his precinct numbers. He was wrong. He didn't know the man he was pinning to the floor was the highest-ranking federal operative in the state, middle deep in a 3-year sting. As the officer smirked for the crowd, he missed the tiny red light flickering beneath the man's collar, broadcasting every illegal word to a tactical team just seconds away. In exactly 5 minutes, the precinct gates would be breached and this officer's life would be dismantled. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here or yet to join us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The rain didn't fall on Newark, New Jersey that Tuesday morning. It attacked. Heavy drops hammered the cracked pavement outside the Rusty Spoon, a diner that smelled like burnt coffee and decades of regret. The kind of place where the waitresses knew your order before you sat down, and nobody asked questions about why you were there at 9 in the morning on a weekday. In the corner booth, furthest from the door, sat a man the regulars called T. He wore a faded gray hoodie pulled low over his eyes, work boots caked with mud, and jeans that had seen better years. His hands were wrapped around a chipped mug of black coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. To anyone watching, he looked like another soul grinding through hard times, waiting for a friend who probably wasn't coming. But his name wasn't T. It was Special Agent Malik Vance, and he wasn't waiting for a friend. He was waiting for a monster. Malik's eyes tracked every movement in the diner without lifting his head. The old man in the Patriots cap reading yesterday's newspaper. The waitress, Dolores, refilling ketchup bottles behind the counter. The teenage couple in booth 2, arguing in hushed whispers about something that felt life or death to them, but wouldn't matter in a week. Malik cataloged them all, not because he suspected them, but because situational awareness was the difference between going home and going missing. Target is 2 minutes out. The voice crackled in his ear, so faint it could have been his own thoughts. It was Agent Kayat Shun, positioned in a white plumbing van across the street, surrounded by monitors and recording equipment. Malik didn't respond. He didn't need to. The microphone taped beneath his hoodie would pick up even a whisper. Instead, he took a slow breath and let his shoulders slump further, sinking deeper into the character of a man with nowhere else to be. For 3 years, the Bureau had been chasing the Sartori Syndicate, a criminal organization that moved weapons, drugs, and people up and down the eastern seaboard like clockwork. Every time the FBI got close, the targets vanished. Every raid turned up empty warehouses. Every wiretap went silent hours before the meet. Someone was feeding them information, and Malik had spent the last 18 months building a cover identity just to get close enough to find out who. Today was supposed to be the payoff. Underneath the table, hidden inside a battered duffel bag, sat $100,000 in marked federal bills. The serial numbers were logged. The cash had been photographed from every angle. In exchange, Malik was supposed to receive a shipment manifest for a container arriving at Port Elizabeth in 72 hours, loaded with fully automatic weapons from Eastern Europe. Outside, a black Mercedes with tinted windows slowed to a crawl in front of the diner. Malik's pulse kicked up, but he didn't move. Through the rain-streaked window, he could just make out the silhouette of the driver. That was him. Vincent Callahan, mid-level enforcer for the Sartori family. A man who'd walked away from 3 murder charges because witnesses had a habit of disappearing. The Mercedes pulled into the parking lot. Malik shifted his weight, ready to stand when Callahan walked through the door. This was it. 3 years of work, hundreds of agents, millions in taxpayer money, all leading to this booth in this forgotten diner. But the door didn't open for Vincent Callahan. It swung open for a Trenton Police Department patrol car. Malik's blood went cold. Two officers stepped out of the cruiser, shaking rain off their jackets. The first was big, the kind of big that took up too much space in a room. Broad shoulders, red face, and a walk that said he'd never met a rule he couldn't bend. Officer Barrett Thorne. Malik knew the name. Every agent working organized crime in New Jersey knew the name. Thorne had a reputation for aggressive policing, meaning he arrested first and asked questions never. Behind him was a younger officer, barely out of the academy by the look of him. Nervous eyes, clean uniform, the kind of rookie who still believed the badge meant something. Malik watched through the window as the Mercedes slowed even further. Callahan saw the patrol car. His brake lights flared red. For 3 long seconds, the car just sat there, engine idling. Then it accelerated and disappeared around the corner. 3 years of work, gone in 3 seconds. Malik closed his eyes and exhaled through his nose. The anger was a cold weight in his chest, but he couldn't show it. Not yet. The officers were already walking toward the diner entrance. And if Malik bolted now, Callahan would know something was wrong. The syndicate would scatter, and the case would die. So Malik sat perfectly still and waited. The bell above the door chimed as Thorne and the rookie stepped inside. The diner went quiet. Not silent, but quieter. The kind of hush that happens when authority walks into a room and everyone instinctively checks their own conscience. Thorne scanned the diner like a hunter surveying prey. His eyes passed over the old man, the couple, Dolores, and then locked onto Malik. Malik felt the weight of that stare. It wasn't curiosity. It was recognition. Not of Malik's face, but of his type. Young, black, hoodie, sitting alone. That was all Thorne needed. The officer's hand drifted toward his belt, fingers brushing the grip of his taser. Malik's heart hammered, but his face stayed blank. He looked down at his cold coffee and waited for the storm to hit. Thorne didn't walk to the counter for coffee. He walked straight toward Malik, his boots heavy on the linoleum floor. Each step was deliberate, loud enough to make sure everyone in the diner knew who was in charge. The rookie followed, a step behind and a world uncertain. "Morning, fellas." Dolores called from behind the counter, trying to sound cheerful. "Coffee." Thorne ignored her. He stopped at Malik's booth and planted both hands on the table, leaning down until his face was inches from Malik's. "ID," Thorne said. Not a question, a command. Malik looked up slowly, letting confusion settle on his face. "Excuse me, officer?" "I said ID." "Now." Thorne's voice was loud enough to carry across the diner. Performative. He wanted an audience. Malik kept his hands visible, palms flat on the table. "Is there a problem?" "The problem is you fit the description of a suspect in a robbery 2 blocks from here. So unless you want this to get complicated, show me some identification." There had been no robbery. Malik knew it. Thorne knew it. But the truth didn't matter when a man with a badge decided you were guilty. "I've been sitting here for half an hour," Malik said, his voice calm, respectful. "You can ask the waitress. I haven't been anywhere." Thorne straightened up and looked over at the rookie. "Miller, you believe this guy?" Officer Miller shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable. "I mean, if he's been here, maybe we should." "I wasn't asking for a debate, Miller. I was asking if you believe him." Miller went quiet. Thorne turned back to Malik, his expression hardening. "Stand up." Malik didn't move. Every instinct screamed at him to comply, to end this before it escalated. But if he stood up and walked out, Callahan would see him leaving with the cops. The syndicate would assume he flipped. The case would be dead, and Malik would spend the next year looking over his shoulder. So he made a choice. "Officer, I'm just trying to have my coffee. I haven't done anything wrong." It was the wrong thing to say. Thorne's face flushed a deep crimson. In his world, Questioning him was the same as resisting. He grabbed Malik by the shoulder and yanked him out of the booth with enough force to send the coffee mug clattering to the floor. I said, "Stand up." Malik's body moved on autopilot, hands going up, palms open. Okay, I'm standing." But Thorn wasn't done. He spun Malik around and shoved him face first into the counter. The impact sent a jar of sugar packets scattering across the floor. Dolores gasped. The couple in booth 2 stopped arguing and stared. "Hands behind your back," Thorn barked, already reaching for his cuffs. Malik's mind raced. He could end this right now. 1 sentence. 7 words. "I'm a federal agent. Check my wallet." But if he said it here, in front of witnesses, his cover was blown forever. Callahan had people everywhere. By tonight, every criminal in the state would know Malik's face. So he stayed silent and let Thorn cuff him. The steel bit into his wrists, tight enough to hurt. Thorn patted him down, rough hands checking pockets, pulling out Malik's phone, his keys, a worn wallet. "What's in the bag?" Thorn asked, nodding toward the duffel under the table. "Personal belongings," Malik said. Thorn smirked. He crouched down, unzipped the bag, and froze. Stacks of $100 bills. Neat. Organized. More money than most people saw in a year. Thorn looked up at Malik, and for the first time, something other than arrogance flashed across his face. Greed. "Miller," Thorn said, his voice suddenly quieter. "Grab the bag." Miller hesitated. "Shouldn't we call it in? That's a lot of cash." "We'll call it in at the station." "Grab the bag." Miller picked up the duffel, his expression troubled. Thorn hauled Malik toward the door, shoving him hard enough to make him stumble. As they stepped outside into the rain, Malik caught a glimpse of his own reflection in the diner window. He looked exactly like what Thorn wanted him to be, a criminal caught red-handed. But Malik wasn't a criminal. He was a trap, and in exactly 4 minutes, Thorn was going to realize he'd just made the worst arrest of his life. As Thorn shoved Malik into the back of the patrol car, he leaned in close, his breath hot against Malik's ear. "This money's going to buy me a new boat," Thorn whispered, his voice dripping with satisfaction. "And you're going to rot in a cell for the rest of your life." Malik said nothing. He just looked at the dashboard clock and started counting down. The rain hammered against the roof of the patrol car as it pulled out of the diner parking lot. Malik sat in the back seat, hands cuffed behind him, watching the streets of Newark blur past through the rain-streaked window. He memorized every turn. Left on Broad, right on Market. Thorn was taking the long route, avoiding the main roads. That wasn't protocol. That was planning. In the front seat, Miller was driving, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Thorn sat in the passenger seat, scrolling through his phone like he'd just arrested a jaywalker instead of committing a federal crime. "Thorn," Miller said quietly, his voice barely audible over the rain. "That guy didn't resist. He was compliant. And that thing he said about being in the diner for half an hour. Miller, do me a favor and shut up." Miller's jaw tightened, but he went silent. Malik watched the exchange in the rearview mirror. Miller was young, maybe 24, 25. He still had that shine, that belief that the job was about protecting people. Thorn had beaten that out of most of the officers in his precinct, but Miller wasn't gone yet. There was still doubt in his eyes. Good. Doubt was the first crack in the wall. Malik leaned back and spoke, his voice low and calm. "Kaya, you there?" Miller's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. "Who are you talking to?" Malik ignored him. The microphone taped to his chest would pick up everything. "I'm here, Malik." Kaya's voice was tight, with controlled fury. "Callahan's gone. We lost him." Malik closed his eyes. 3 years. Gone. "Let Thorn take me in," Malik said. "I want him to book me. I want the paper trail complete." "Copy that," Kaya replied. "Extraction in 4 minutes. Hang tight." Thorn turned around in his seat, staring at Malik with a mixture of suspicion and amusement. "Who the hell are you talking to? You got voices in your head." "I'm talking to the people who are going to ruin your life, Barrett." The use of his first name made Thorne's smirk falter for half a second. "You don't know my name?" Thorne said. "Barrett Thorne, 17 years on the force. 3 complaints for excessive force, all dismissed. You live at 47 Maple in East Orange. 2-story colonial, blue shutters. You refinanced last year. Paid off with a cash down payment you definitely didn't get from your salary." The car went dead silent. Miller's foot eased off the gas. "How does he know that?" Thorne's face turned a dangerous shade of red. "You've been stalking me?" "No, Barrett. I've been investigating you." Thorne twisted in his seat, leaning as far back as the seatbelt would allow. "You're bluffing. You're just some punk trying to scare me." Malik met his eyes, and for the first time, he let the mask drop. No more playing the street hustler. No more fake deference. He spoke with the cold authority of a man who'd spent 15 years putting people like Thorne in federal cages. "Check the time, Barrett. Your clock is ticking." Thorne stared at him, and Malik saw it. The first flicker of fear. Then Thorne's phone buzzed. He looked down at the screen, and his face went pale. It was a text from an unknown number. Just 4 words. "You arrested the wrong guy." Thorne's hand started to shake. "What is it?" Miller asked. Thorne didn't answer. He slammed his fist against the dashboard. "Who are you?" "I told you," Malik said. "I'm the guy who's going to ruin your life. And we're going to do it by the book. Every illegal seizure, every violation of my rights, every word you just said, it's all on record. Audio, video, time-stamped, authenticated." Miller's eyes went wide. "Wait, you're recording?" "No, Miller. The FBI is recording." The car swerved slightly as Miller's hands jerked on the wheel. He looked at Thorne, panic creeping into his voice. "Thorne, if he's telling the truth." "He's lying," Thorne roared, but his voice cracked. "Am I?" Malik leaned forward as much as the cuffs would allow. "Then why did your phone just get a warning text? You think that's a coincidence?" Thorne's breathing was getting faster, shallower. He was spiraling, and Malik could see it. "Pull over," Thorne said. "What?" Miller asked. "I said pull over. Now." Miller eased the car to the side of the road, rain pounding against the windshield. Thorne unbuckled his seatbelt and turned fully around, his face inches from the cage separating him from Malik. "You think you're smart?" Thorne hissed. "You think you can threaten me and walk away? I don't care if you're wired. I don't care if you're FBI, CIA, or the damn Pope. You're in my car now. And if I say you resisted, if I say you attacked me, who do you think they're going to believe?" Malik didn't blink. "They're going to believe the tactical team that's been following this car since we left the diner." Thorne's eyes darted to the rearview mirror. The street behind them was empty, just rain and gray sky. "You're bluffing," Thorne said, but his voice was quieter now. "Maybe," Malik said. "Or maybe they're 3 cars back, waiting for you to do something stupid so they can add assault to the list of charges." For 10 long seconds, nobody moved. Then Thorne sat back in his seat, his jaw clenched so tight it looked like it might crack. "Drive," he told Miller. Miller put the car in gear, his hands trembling. As they pulled back onto the road, Malik glanced at the dashboard clock. 2 minutes. They turned onto the avenue leading to the precinct, and Malik saw it. The heavy iron gates of the Sally Port, the garage where prisoners were brought in away from public view. The gates hissed open, and the patrol car rolled inside. The moment the gates clanged shut behind them, Malik smiled. The trap was set. The precinct bullpen was chaos. Phones rang. Printers jammed. A drunk in holding cell 3 was singing an off-key version of a song nobody recognized. Detectives shuffled between desks, carrying stained coffee mugs and case files that looked like they'd survived a flood. Thorne walked through it all like a conquering hero, one hand gripping Malik's arm, the other carrying the duffel bag of cash. "Got a live one, Sarge," Thorne announced, shoving Malik toward the booking desk. "Caught him sitting on $100,000 with no explanation. Probably drug money." Sergeant Pearson, a gray-haired man with a coffee stain on his tie that might have been there since the Clinton administration, looked up from his paperwork. "That right? Where'd you grab him?" "Rusty Spoon Diner. He was waiting for someone. Fits the description of a suspect in A, B, and E." "What B and E?" Malik asked calmly. Thorne ignored him. He dumped the duffel bag onto the desk. The zipper was still open, and stacks of $100 bills spilled out like a magician's trick. The bullpen went quiet. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Detectives looked up from their desks. "Jesus," Pearson whistled. "That's a lot of green." "Yep," Thorne said, grinning. "We'll need to process it." "Evidence locker." Pearson's eyes narrowed slightly. "We'll need to log the serial numbers first." "Protocol." Thorne's grin faltered. "We can do that later. Let's just get him booked." "I told you what that money is," Malik said, his voice carrying across the bullpen. "It's federal property. Serial numbers are already logged. They're marked bills from a bureau sting operation." A few officers laughed. One detective made a joke about how creative suspects were getting with their stories. But Pearson didn't laugh. He pulled one of the bills from the stack and held it up to the light, squinting at the serial number. His face went still. "Thorne," Pearson said slowly, "these bills have a federal watch flag." "What?" Thorne's voice cracked. "The serial numbers. They're in the system, tagged as part of an ongoing investigation." Pearson looked at Malik, then at Thorne. "Who did you say this guy was?" "He's nobody," Thorne said quickly. "Just a street punk trying to." "My credentials are in my wallet," Malik interrupted. "Back pocket. Check them." Thorne's hand shot to Malik's back pocket before Pearson could move. He pulled out the worn leather wallet and flipped it open. His face went from red to white in less than a second. Inside was a gold badge. Heavy, official, engraved with an eagle and the words Federal Bureau of Investigation. Next to it was an ID card. Malik's face. Younger, clean-shaven, but unmistakably him. Special Agent Malik Vance. Criminal Division. The bullpen was so quiet you could hear the fluorescent lights humming. Thorne stared at the badge like it was a live grenade. "This is fake." "Run the badge number," Malik said calmly. "Go ahead. It's 77 Delta 9. It's in the national database. Or you can call the FBI field office and ask for Assistant Director Kayachan. She's been listening to this entire conversation." Pearson reached for his phone, but Thorne grabbed his wrist. "Don't," Thorne said, his voice low and desperate. "He's running a con. He bought that badge online. It's fake." "Then prove it," Pearson said, pulling his hand free. "Run the number." Thorne's breathing was shallow now, panicked. He looked around the bullpen, searching for support, but every officer was watching him like he'd just stepped on a landmine. She never saw the danger coming, and most people don't. Subscribe so you're not caught off guard by the next betrayal. "I'm not running anything," Thorne said. He grabbed the badge and threw it into the trash can next to the desk. "This is garbage. He's under arrest, and that's final." Malik looked at the wall clock above the booking desk. 45 seconds. "Sergeant Pearson," Malik said, his voice calm and steady. "I strongly suggest you step away from Officer Thorne. In about 30 seconds, this building is going to be surrounded by federal agents, and you don't want to be standing next to him when it happens." Pearson took a step back, his hand drifting toward his radio. Thorne grabbed Malik by the collar. "Shut your mouth." And then, cutting through the noise of the bullpen, came a sound that made everyone freeze. The deep, rhythmic thump of helicopter blades. It wasn't passing by. It was hovering, directly over the precinct roof. Every officer in the room looked up at the ceiling as if they could see through it. Then the front desk phone rang. Not the regular line, the red phone, the direct line from the captain's office. Pearson picked it up. "Desk, Sergeant Pearson." He listened for 3 seconds. His face went pale. "Yes, sir." "He's right here, sir." Pearson lowered the phone and looked at Thorne. "Captain wants to know why the assistant director of the FBI just called him asking why we're holding one of their agents hostage." Thorne's knees buckled. He caught himself on the desk. Malik looked at the clock. 5 seconds, and then the front doors exploded inward. The flashbang didn't make a sound. It erased sound. It replaced the world with a high-pitched whine and a wall of white light that turned the precinct into a photograph negative. Then came the voices. "FBI, hands where we can see them. Down. Get down. Nobody move." Tactical agents in full body armor flooded the bullpen like water through a broken dam. Navy blue uniforms. Yellow block letters across their chests and backs. Helmets. Carbines raised but not aimed. They moved with the kind of precision that came from 1,000 training drills, fanning out to cover every corner of the room. Officers dove for the floor. Coffee mugs shattered. Chairs tipped over. Someone's case file scattered across the tile like confetti. Malik stayed exactly where he was, hands still cuffed behind his back, standing calmly at the booking desk while chaos erupted around him. Leading the entry team was Agent Kaya Chun, 5'6", but she moved like she owned every inch of the room. She swept her carbine left, then right, confirming the area was secure. "Clear," she shouted. "Clear," echoed from 3 other agents. Kaya lowered her weapon and walked straight toward the booking desk. Her eyes locked on Thorne, who was pressed against the wall, hands up, his face the color of old paper. "Who's the ranking officer?" Kaya demanded. Pearson raised a shaking hand. "Sergeant Pearson, ma'am." "Where is Special Agent Vance?" Pearson pointed at Malik. Kaya turned and saw him. Saw the handcuffs. Saw the trash can with his badge thrown inside like garbage. Her jaw tightened. "Uncuff him," she ordered. Thorne didn't move. "Officer Thorne," Kaya said, her voice dropping to a register that could cut steel. "Uncuff him now, or I will have you on the floor in front of your colleagues. You have 3 seconds. 1. Thorne's hands fumbled for the keys on his belt. 2. He unlocked the cuffs with shaking fingers. The steel fell away from Malik's wrists, and Malik rolled his shoulders, feeling blood flow back into his hands. Kaya stepped forward and handed him a tactical vest with FBI printed across the front. Malik pulled it on over his hoodie, then clipped his real badge to the chest strap. The transformation was instant. The street hustler was gone. In his place stood a federal agent. "You okay?" Kaya asked quietly. "Shoulders sore," Malik said, rotating his arm. Thorne yanked it pretty hard at the diner. Kaya's expression hardened. She turned back to Thorne. "Officer Barrett Thorne, you're being detained for assault on a federal officer, obstruction of justice, and unlawful seizure of federal property." "I didn't know," Thorne shouted, his voice breaking. "He didn't tell me he was an agent." "He showed you his badge," Kaya said coldly. "You threw it in the trash. I thought it was fake. Did you run the badge number?" Thorne went silent. "Did you call the field office to verify?" "Nothing." "Did you do anything except assume this man was guilty because of how he looked?" Thorne's mouth opened, but no words came out. Kaya nodded to 2 agents. "Cuff him." "Wait," Thorne said, backing against the wall. "Wait, I have rights. I want my union rep." "You'll get your rep," Kaya said, "after we're done securing the crime scene." "Crime scene?" Thorne's voice cracked. Malik walked over to the trash can, reached inside, and pulled out his badge. He wiped it clean with his sleeve and held it up for the entire bullpen to see. "This isn't just about a bad arrest," Malik said. "This is about a pattern. For 3 years, Every time the FBI got close to the Sartori syndicate, someone tipped them off. Every raid went cold. Every sting fell apart. We suspected a mole inside law enforcement. He looked directly at Thorne. Today, we confirmed it. Thorne's legs gave out. He slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor, staring at nothing. Malik turned to Kaya. "Did you get the text?" "We got it," Kaya said. She pulled out her phone and showed the screen to the room. Officer Thorne received a message at 9:47 a.m. from an encrypted number. It said, "The bird is away. Thanks for the distraction. We traced the number. It belongs to Vincent Callahan, enforcer for the Sartori family." Gasps rippled through the bullpen. Thorne wasn't just a dirty cop, Malik continued. He was working for the mob. He arrested me to create a distraction so Callahan could escape. 3 years of work, destroyed because Thorne sold out his badge for a paycheck. Pearson looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. "Barrett, tell me that's not true." Thorne said nothing. He just sat there, staring at the floor. Kaya motioned to her team. "Bag the cash. Secure the evidence locker. And someone get me the server access codes. We're pulling every case file Thorne touched in the last 5 years." "You can't do that," Pearson said weakly. "You need a warrant." Kaya pulled a folded document from her vest and handed it to him. "Federal warrant signed by a judge 2 hours ago. We have authorization to seize all precinct records related to organized crime investigations." Pearson unfolded the paper, read it, and sat down heavily in his chair. Malik walked over to Thorne and crouched down so they were eye level. "You made a mistake today, Barrett," Malik said quietly. "You saw a man in a hoodie and decided he was guilty. You didn't check. You didn't verify. You just assumed. And that assumption just ended your career." Thorne looked up, tears streaming down his face. "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," Malik corrected. "Because knowing would have meant you couldn't steal that money. Knowing would have meant you had to be a real cop instead of a thug with a badge." Malik stood and walked toward the exit, where Kaya was waiting. "What about him?" Kaya asked, nodding at Thorne. Malik looked back one last time. Thorne was being lifted to his feet by 2 agents, his hands cuffed behind his back, just like Malik had been 20 minutes ago. "Take him to the box," Malik said. "We need to have a conversation about his friends in the syndicate." As the agents led Thorne away, Malik walked past the trash can where his badge had been thrown. He picked it up one more time, polished it against his shirt, and pinned it to Thorne's chest. Upside down, the symbol of a cop who'd betrayed everything the badge was supposed to stand for. And as Malik walked out of the precinct and into the rain, he heard Thorne's voice behind him, broken and hollow. "I'm sorry." Malik didn't turn around. Sorry didn't bring back 3 years. Sorry didn't undo the damage. And sorry definitely wasn't going to save Barrett Thorne from what was coming next. Interrogation room 4 was a box designed to break people. No windows. Gray walls. A steel table bolted to the floor. 1 chair on each side. The air smelled like industrial cleaner and old coffee, and the fluorescent lights hummed with a frequency that crawled under your skin after about 10 minutes. Malik had been in this room 100 times, but he'd never sat on this side of the table. He placed his tactical vest on the corner of the table, then his phone, then his badge. Each item was set down with deliberate precision, the sound of metal on metal echoing in the silence. He was building something, not a case, a presence. Across from him, Barrett Thorne sat with his hands folded on the table, trying to look calm. But his right leg was bouncing under the table, and his eyes kept darting to the mirror on the wall. He knew people were watching. He knew his career was over. What he didn't know yet was how much worse it was going to get. Malik said nothing. He just sat there, perfectly still, letting the silence do the work. Thorne lasted 90 seconds. "I want my union rep," he said, his voice hoarse. Malik didn't respond. "I have rights." You can't just hold me here without. You arrested a federal agent, Malik said quietly. You assaulted him. You attempted to steal federal property. This isn't an internal affairs review, Barrett. This is a criminal investigation. Your union can't help you here. Thorne's jaw tightened. I made a mistake. I didn't know who you were. You didn't care who I was. That's not. You saw a black man in a hoodie and decided he was guilty. You didn't run my ID. You didn't check the serial numbers on the cash. You didn't follow a single procedure because you weren't planning to follow the law. You were planning to steal. Thorne's face flushed. That's a lie. I was going to log that money. Malik pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. Thorne's voice filled the room, tinny but clear. This money's going to buy me a new boat, and you're going to rot in a cell. Thorne went pale. That's your voice, Barrett. Recorded at 9:52 a.m. You want to tell me again how you were following procedure? Thorne slumped back in his chair, the fight draining out of him. Malik leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everything. Who you work for. How long you've been on their payroll. Every time you interfered with an investigation. Every officer you've corrupted. Every case you've buried. I want a lawyer. You'll get one. But first, I'm going to show you something. Malik slid a phone across the table. Thorne's burner phone. The screen was lit up with a text message. The bird is away. Thanks for the distraction. Thorne stared at it like it was a snake. That's from Vincent Callahan, Malik said. Sent at 9:48 a.m., right after you arrested me. He's thanking you for scaring him off. For protecting him. I didn't protect anyone, Thorne said weakly. I didn't know he was there. Then why did you arrest me the moment his car pulled up? Thorne opened his mouth. Closed it. He had no answer. Tell me in the comments. If you were in Malik's shoes, would you offer this man a deal or let him rot? Say deal or ROT. I got a call, Thorne finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Someone told me there was a drug dealer at the Rusty Spoon. They said he was dangerous. They said to move fast. Who called you? I don't know. It was a blocked number. Malik pulled out another phone. This one had a recording app open. He hit play. A voice, distorted and mechanical. Officer Thorne, we have a situation at the Rusty Spoon Diner. Target is a mid-level dealer, armed and dangerous. Move now before he leaves. That call came from a burner phone registered to a shell company owned by the Sartori Syndicate, Malik said. They played you, Barrett. They used you to get rid of me. Thorne's hands were shaking now. I didn't know. I swear, I thought I was doing my job. You took money from them. No. Malik slid another photo across the table. It showed a bank statement. Regular deposits of $5,000 every month. Thorne's name was on the account. That's from Blue Horizon Charity. Thorne said desperately. It's a police charity. I donate my time, and they... Blue Horizon doesn't exist, Malik interrupted. It's a front. The money comes from Sartori construction companies. You've been on the mob's payroll for 5 years. Thorne stared at the statement, and something in him broke. His shoulders sagged. His head dropped. I have a mortgage, he whispered. My wife, she got sick. The medical bills, they were killing us. Someone reached out. They said they could help. Just a favor here and there. Look the other way. Delay a warrant. Nothing big. Nothing big, Malik repeated. Except you help them smuggle guns. You help them traffic people. You help them destroy lives. Thorne said nothing. Malik pulled out one more photo. This one was recent. Taken outside a coffee shop in Hoboken. It showed a woman in her 50s sitting across from a man in an expensive suit. Thorne's eyes went wide. That's my wife. The man she's meeting with is Arthur Gennaro. He's a mob lawyer. This photo was taken 3 days ago. Thorne grabbed the photo, his hands trembling. What was she doing with him? You tell me. Thorne stared at the image, and the realization hit him like a freight train. His wife hadn't been sick. She'd been setting him up. The medical bills were real, But the charity that paid them off wasn't a gift. It was a trap. They own you, Barrett. And they own her. You were never a partner. You were always a pawn. Thorne's face crumpled. He put his head in his hands and started to cry. Malik stood up and walked to the door. You've been betrayed by everyone, Barrett. Your department, the mob, even your family. But you still have one choice left. You can help us bring them down, or you can go to prison alone. Malik opened the door and stepped into the hallway, leaving Thorne alone with the wreckage of his life. Malik stood in the observation room, watching Thorne through the one-way glass. The man looked broken, hollow, but Malik couldn't afford to feel sympathy. Not yet. Kaya stood next to him, arms crossed. Think he'll flip. He doesn't have a choice. Before Kaya could respond, a phone rang. Not hers. Not Malik's. It was coming from the evidence bag on the table between them. Thorne's burner phone. Malik pulled on a pair of latex gloves and picked it up. The screen showed an unknown number. He answered and put it on speaker. Barrett, a smooth, calm voice said. I assume you're listening, Agent Vance. Or should I call you T? Malik's blood went cold. Who is this? You know who I am. I'm the man you've been chasing for 3 years. I'm the ghost in your files. The name that never sticks. Vincent Callahan. But not just an enforcer. Malik realized in that moment that Callahan wasn't mid-level. He was the head of the entire Sartori operation. Where are you, Vincent? Malik asked. Somewhere you'll never find me. There was a smile in his voice. I have to say, that was quite the performance at the diner. I almost believed you were just another street hustler. But when the cavalry showed up at the precinct, well, that answered my question. Kaya leaned closer to the phone, her jaw tight. What question? Malik asked. Whether you were the real deal or just another snitch trying to play tough. See, I've had my suspicions about you for weeks. Too clean, too careful. So I decided to run a test. I sent Barrett to arrest you. If you were nobody, he'd bring you in, and I'd make the deal with someone else. But if you were FBI, well, you'd call on the cavalry. And you did. Malik's fists clenched. You used Thorne as bait. I used him as confirmation. He served his purpose. Now he's your problem. In the interrogation room, Thorne heard the voice over the speaker and went rigid. He knew what it meant. He'd been thrown away like garbage. You sacrificed your own man, Kaya said, her voice sharp with anger. Barrett was never my man. He was a tool, and tools get replaced when they break. Callahan's tone was almost bored. Besides, he was getting greedy, asking for raises, making mistakes. Better to let you take him off the board than deal with him myself. He thought he was the hunter, but he was just bait. Subscribe before the next twist catches you off guard. You won't get away, Malik said. I already have. I'm at a private airfield in Connecticut as we speak. Wheels up in 15 minutes. By the time you get a warrant, I'll be in a country that doesn't extradite. You played a good game, Agent Vance. But I played a better one. Malik's mind raced. How long have you been paying Thorne? 5 years. Maybe 6. I lost track. Callahan laughed. Did you know I've been paying his mortgage the whole time? Through a fake charity. Blue Horizon. Clever, right? His wife thought it was a gift from the police union. She had no idea her husband sold his soul. In the interrogation room, Thorne's face turned ashen. You're a coward, Malik said. I'm a businessman, and business is good. Thanks for cleaning up my mess, by the way. You saved me the cost of a bullet. The line started to crackle with static. Callahan was moving. Wait, Malik said quickly. Why tell me all this? Why call? There was a pause. Then Callahan's voice came back, colder now. Because I wanted you to know you lost. You spent 3 years chasing shadows, and all you caught was a dirty cop. I wanted you to go to sleep tonight knowing I'm out there. Free. Untouchable. And there's nothing you can do about it. The line went dead. Kaya slammed her hand on the table. Tell me we traced that. An agent in the corner looked up from his laptop. Signal bounced through 6 towers. Last ping was near Westchester County Airport. Private terminal. Malik was already moving. He burst into the interrogation room. Thorne looked up, his face wet with tears. The airfield, Malik said. What's the tail number of his plane? Thorne shook his head. I don't know. I swear I don't. Malik grabbed the table and leaned in close. Listen to me very carefully, Barrett. Vincent Callahan just told me you're disposable. He's leaving the country, and when he's gone, you're going to a state prison. Do you know what happens to cops in state prison? Thorne's face went white. You have one chance to stay alive. 1. You give me that tail number, and I put you in federal custody. Protective unit. You'll do your time, but you'll do it breathing. If you don't, I drop you in general population at Rikers, and I make sure every inmate knows you're a crooked cop who sold out his brothers. Thorne's whole body was shaking. He'll kill me. Even in prison, he'll find a way. Not if he's in a cell next to you. Thorne closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were empty. Resigned. November 774 Romeo Foxtrot, he whispered. Gulfstream G650. White with blue trim. Malik was already out the door. Kaya, he shouted. Get every agent we have. We're going to Connecticut. Now. The convoy tore through the night like a pack of wolves. 4 black SUVs, lights flashing, sirens screaming, weaving through traffic on I-95 North. Malik sat in the passenger seat of the lead vehicle, his hands gripping the dashboard as the speedometer climbed past 90. Kaya was driving, her jaw set, her eyes locked on the road. ETA? Malik asked. 12 minutes, Kaya said. But the plane's engines are already running. If he takes off before we get there, he's gone. Malik grabbed the radio. This is Vance. I need air traffic control to ground all departures at Westchester County. Authorization code Tango 57 Delta. A voice crackled back. Copy that. Grounding all traffic. But we've got a Gulfstream on the taxiway. Pilot's not responding to tower commands. Then block the runway, Malik ordered. Send every vehicle you have. Fire trucks. Fuel tankers. I don't care. That plane does not take off. Sir, if he's already moving. Then we stop him ourselves. The convoy screamed through the airport perimeter fence, tires chewing through the chain link like paper. Ahead, past the rows of parked private jets and maintenance hangars, Malik saw it. The Gulfstream, white with blue trim. Tail number November 774 Romeo Foxtrot. It was already on the runway, engines roaring, moving fast. He's making a run for it, Kaya shouted. Malik made a decision that would either end his career or save it. Drive onto the runway. Block him. Kaya's eyes went wide. Malik, that's insane. Do it. Kaya gritted her teeth and slammed the accelerator. The SUV lurched forward, veering off the taxiway and onto the main runway. The other 3 vehicles followed, forming a line across the asphalt. The Gulfstream was barreling toward them. 60 miles per hour. 70. The engines screamed like banshees, and the smell of burning jet fuel filled the air. He's not stopping, Kaya said, her voice tight. Malik stared at the oncoming plane. His entire life flashed through his mind. The oath he'd taken, the cases he'd worked, the people he'd saved, and the ones he'd failed. This wasn't about the paycheck. It was never about the paycheck. Hold your ground, Malik said. The plane was 50 yards away. 40. 30. Kaya's knuckles were white on the wheel. Malik. Hold. 20 yards. Malik could see the pilot now, visible through the cockpit window. It was Callahan himself, his face twisted with rage. 10 yards. At the last possible second, Callahan pulled back on the throttle. The reverse thrusters engaged with a deafening roar. The plane's nose dipped. The tires screamed. Smoke poured from the landing gear as the jet tried to stop, but it was going too fast. The Gulf Stream skidded sideways, its wing clipping the edge of Malik's SUV with a sound like a car crash and a thunderclap combined. The impact spun the SUV 90 degrees. Malik's head slammed against the window. Stars exploded across his vision. When he looked up, the plane had veered off the runway and into the grass. Its landing gear collapsed. The fuselage tilted at a sickening angle, and sparks flew as metal scraped against asphalt. The engines finally cut out. Silence fell. Malik kicked open the SUV door and stumbled out, his service weapon drawn. Kaya was right behind him, blood trickling from a cut above her eyebrow. Agents poured out of the other vehicles, surrounding the crippled jet. Malik approached the cabin door. It was jammed. He fired 2 rounds into the locking mechanism and kicked it open. Inside, the cabin was chaos. Luggage everywhere, broken bottles, and at the far end, slumped against the cockpit door, was Vincent Callahan. He wasn't running anymore. Malik climbed inside, his weapon trained on Callahan's chest. Hands where I can see them. Callahan looked up, blood running from a gash on his forehead. He smiled. It was the smile of a man who'd lost, but refused to admit it. "You're insane," Callahan said. "You could have died." "So could you," Malik replied. "Hands." "Now." Callahan raised his hands slowly, but his eyes flicked to something on the floor. A laptop. Open. Wires running from it to a black box duct taped to the seat. Malik's blood ran cold. "What is that?" Callahan's smile widened. "Insurance." 6 months later, the federal courthouse in Newark was packed. Every seat in the gallery was filled. Reporters lined the back wall, cameras ready. Outside, protesters held signs. Some demanded justice. Others demanded mercy. Nobody was getting mercy today. Malik sat in the second row, wearing his dress uniform. Next to him was Kaya, and behind them, a dozen agents who'd worked the case. They'd all come to see the end. At the defense table sat 3 men. Barrett Thorne looked like a ghost. He'd lost 40 pounds. His hair had gone gray. The arrogant cop who'd swaggered through the precinct was gone, replaced by a hollow shell who couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Next to him was Arthur Gennaro, the mob lawyer who tried to broker deals for half the syndicate. He sat in an expensive suit that couldn't hide the fact he was terrified. And in the center, shackled and wearing an orange jumpsuit, was Vincent Callahan. He didn't look scared. He looked bored. The bailiff stood. "All rise." The Honorable Judge Raymond Stone presiding. Judge Stone was a black man in his 60s, with silver hair and a reputation for handing down sentences that made defense attorneys cry. They called him the Hammer. He sat down and surveyed the room with eyes that missed nothing. "We are here for sentencing in the matter of United States versus Thorne, Gennaro, and Callahan. The jury has spoken. The evidence is irrefutable. Now it is time to balance the scales." The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Claire Donovan, stood first. "Your Honor, these men didn't just break the law. They weaponized it. Officer Thorne used his badge to terrorize the innocent and protect the guilty. Mr. Gennaro used his law degree to shelter criminals. And Mr. Callahan orchestrated it all, turning public servants into private enforcers. The government requests the maximum sentence for all 3 defendants." Judge Stone nodded. "Mr. Thorne, do you have anything to say?" Thorne stood slowly. His lawyer tried to help him, but he waved her off. "I was wrong," Thorne said, his voice cracking. "I sold my soul for money I didn't need. I hurt people who didn't deserve it. I have no excuses. I just want to say I'm sorry." It was the first honest thing Barrett Thorne had said in years. Judge Stone's expression didn't change. "Apologies do not restore the lives you destroyed, Mr. Thorne. Sit down." The judge turned to the gallery. "Is Officer Nathan Miller present?" A young man in uniform stood up. It was Miller, the rookie who'd been in the car that day. "Officer Miller," Judge Stone said. You were offered immunity in exchange for your testimony. You could have walked away. Why didn't you? Miller swallowed hard. Because staying silent would have made me just as guilty, Your Honor. I became a cop to protect people, not to protect other cops who hurt them. If you were in Rookie Miller's place, would you have testified against your partner? Comment yes or no. I'm pinning the most honest answer. The courtroom erupted in applause. Judge Stone let it go for 5 seconds before banging his gavel. Mr. Callahan, the judge said, the laptop you tried to use as leverage, the one with the dead man switch. Do you know what it contained? Callahan's smirk faded. It contained the names of 53 corrupt officials across 3 states. Judges, prosecutors, police chiefs. You thought it was insurance. But all you did was hand us the keys to your entire network. We've arrested 47 of them so far. The rest are in hiding. Callahan's face went pale. Judge Stone stood. Barrett Thorne, you are hereby sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. You are stripped of your pension, your assets are seized, and your name will be synonymous with corruption for the rest of your life. Thorne didn't react. He just sat there, staring at nothing. Arthur Gennaro, 25 years. Disbarred. Every case you've touched will be reviewed for misconduct. Gennaro's head dropped to the table. And Vincent Callahan. Judge Stone's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire room. You orchestrated a criminal empire. You corrupted law enforcement. You trafficked weapons and people. You are sentenced to life without the possibility of parole in ADX Florence. You will spend 23 hours a day in a cell the size of a parking space. You will never see the sun again. Callahan finally broke. His face twisted with rage. This isn't over. Yes, Mr. Callahan, Judge Stone said calmly. It is. The gavel came down. Bang. As the marshals led the 3 men away, Thorne looked back one last time. His eyes found Malik's. Malik didn't look away. And then Thorne was gone. 6 months after the trial, Malik Vance walked into the Rusty Spoon Diner. The rain was falling again, just like it had that morning. But this time, he wasn't wearing a hoodie. He wore a tailored suit, and his gold badge was clipped to his belt. Dolores looked up from behind the counter and smiled. Well, look who it is. The man who brought down the bad guys. Malik smiled back. Just doing my job, Dolores. Your usual booth is open. Malik slid into booth 4, the same seat he'd occupied that morning. The same cracked vinyl. The same view of the street. But everything felt different now. Dolores brought him a cup of coffee, fresh and hot this time. Neighborhoods changed since that day, she said, pouring. Feels safer. People trust the cops again. That's because the good ones are still here, Malik said. Officers like Miller. The ones who chose the oath over the paycheck. Dolores nodded and walked away. Malik looked out the window at the rain. He thought about Thorne, sitting in a federal cell, probably wondering how his life had fallen apart so fast. He thought about Callahan, locked in solitary, staring at concrete walls for the rest of his life. And he thought about the 5 minutes that had changed everything. 5 minutes from the moment Thorne put the cuffs on to the moment the FBI breached the precinct. 5 minutes that exposed a decade of corruption. 5 minutes that proved the system still worked, even when it felt broken. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Malik's heart skipped. He opened it. Agent Vance. My name is Marcus. I'm a detective in Philadelphia. I think we have the same problem you had in Newark. I need your help. Malik stared at the message for a long moment. Then he typed back. Send me the details. The war wasn't over. It never was. For every corrupt cop they put away, another one was out there, thinking they could get away with it. But Malik would be there, watching, waiting. He pulled out his wallet and left $100 bill on the table. The same amount Thorne had tried to steal. Dolores saw it and tried to give it back. That's too much. It's the right amount, Malik said. Keep it. He stood and walked toward the door. Before he left, he turned back and looked at the booth one last time. 5 minutes, he said quietly to himself. That's all it took to ruin a man's life. But it takes a lifetime to build one. Be careful who you mess with. He stepped out into the rain and disappeared into the city. Was this justified or evil? Comment yes or a no. I'm pinning the wildest take. The diner door closed behind him, and the bell chimed one last time. Somewhere in the city, another criminal was making a choice. Another cop was deciding whether to take the money or keep the oath. And Malik would be ready. Because justice doesn't sleep. It just waits for the next 5 minutes.
Hey there. Thank you so much for watching till the very end. We really appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And guess what? The story doesn't end here. Click on the video right here on your screen to dive into another fascinating story. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Once again, thanks for being a part of this amazing community. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring stories that move you.